From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 5, new details emerge on the suspect behind the Palm Springs fertility clinic explosion.
Plus, a funding folly. Why millions of dollars set aside for a park is now nowhere to be found.
And don't be fooled by the costumes. It's not Halloween. Thousands of runners take on one of the biggest races in San Francisco. We'll show you what it's like to actually run Beta Breakers. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Andrea Nakano.
And I'm Brian Hackney. We'll begin in San Francisco on this Sunday afternoon, where a nonprofit known for supporting the city's parks and community projects is being accused of mismanaging millions of dollars.
Money that was supposed to go to smaller organizations and fund new playgrounds is gone. And one donor tells reporter Dahlin the biggest victims are the families that use the parks.
Some families waited 6 years for a new playground at the spot, but most of the donated money to build that playground is gone, leaving the donor and families very upset.
So the first phase when we came here was ending, and the money that we donated was supposed to go to a park here and a park over there for, the children in the neighborhood.
Nicola Miner and her family's Baker Street Foundation donated $3 million to the San Francisco Parks Alliance to build 2 playgrounds at Crane Cove Park. She learned a couple of days ago the nonprofit reportedly spent most of that money, $1.9 million, on general expenditures.
I wanted a park here. That was what our money was for. Money was not for general operating expenses. And so I just feel a real sense of betrayal.
Nicola says the biggest victims are the families that have been waiting for the playgrounds.
The fact that they took money away from families, I'm speechless. I actually can't even believe somebody would do that.
Neighbor R.J. Andrews and his family live 2 blocks away. Like many families in this landlocked Dog Patch neighborhood, they've been wondering where the promised playgrounds are.
When they broke ground, we were so excited, even more excited to learn that there's going to be a playground coming. And that was a long time ago. That was 6-7 years ago when those first plans came out. That pad has been sitting empty since the park opened in 2020. And since 2020, we've grown a family.
The SF Parks Alliance distributes private money to city projects and also helps smaller organizations collect donations. The San Francisco Chronicle reports the nonprofit diverted at least $3.8 million earmarked for specific projects to cover operating expenses. The previous CEO and CFO are no longer with the organization. The new CEO released a statement that reads in part, SFPA is working hard to correct the errors of the past and begin a new era of transparency and fiscal accountability with our community partners and with the city and county of San Francisco. We are looking broadly at options to stabilize the San Francisco Parks Alliance.
I haven't heard them apologize at all.
Nicola demands a criminal investigation. She says these families deserve to know where the money really went.
I just think it's gone. I don't think there's going to be parks here for a while.
The future of the 2 playgrounds now up in the air. Nicola filed a complaint with the state attorney general. She plans to file a complaint with the city attorney as well. It's unclear if there'll be a criminal investigation.
In other news, we're getting more details on an apparent pepper spray incident at a San Francisco BART station. This happened at the Powell Street station yesterday afternoon. Police say they got a call about pepper spray impacting a number of people. At least 2 people had to be taken to the hospital. Several others were treated on site, as you can see, and police are trying to figure out exactly what happened. Well, it's only the middle of May, but already fires are breaking out. This one in Contra Costa County, a brush fire that may have started as a car fire. It's happened just south of Highway 4 in Vasco Road near Brentwood this afternoon. Time-lapse shows the moment it started. Crews say it burned about 50 acres and is under control. Darren?
Oh, that is all tied in to what we've been dealing with from the wind over the last few days, Brian. It was really rough yesterday with 50-mile-an-hour gusts out here over the water. Still windy out here. I'll get to that in a second. We have another concern now, which is what's going on over here. If you look at the streamlines over my head coming through the Central Valley, these are now northerly winds. In other words, they're offshore winds. This is what can really dry out the landscape and fan any grass fires that get going in this kind of flow. And as a matter of fact, if we just take a look at what the National Weather Service has put out until tomorrow night, The part of California that is right under the most direct northerly flow right now is over here. And this is a fire weather watch that's going to go until tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Now, thankfully, here at home, it's confined primarily to the Central Valley. Although Solano County, you are in this with all that golden grass at this point. Through 9 o'clock tomorrow night, humidities will be low and winds will be gusting about 30 miles an hour. That is the primary concern for at least the next 24 hours. The winds will start to calm down by tomorrow night. Then the focus turns to the warm-up, and we'll talk about that because some of us are going back to 90 by the middle of this week. I'll show you who just a bit. For now, guys, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Darren. Other top stories we are following today. Former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. That's according to a statement from his personal office. Biden was evaluated last week after experiencing urinary symptoms. Doctors say the cancer has already spread from its primary site to other tissue in the body. The former president is now reviewing treatment options.
Well, cleanup efforts are underway down in Palm Springs 1 day after that bomb exploded near a fertility clinic. Bulldozers were out scooping up the debris left behind from that explosion. The person killed has been identified as 25-year-old Guy Bartkus. The FBI thinks that he was responsible for that explosion. 4 injured victims have been released from the hospital. Investigators found more evidence confirming the attack was intentional.
Some of the posts that he's made online, some of the comments made in his manifesto that we're combing through right now is kind of what led us to that nihilist belief.
The clinic does confirm no staff members were injured in the blast on Saturday. Their lab, including all eggs, embryos, and reproductive materials, remain secure and undamaged. Andrea?
Well, Brian, look at this video from New York last night after a ship crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge, killing 2 and injuring dozens of others. The crash took place when a Mexican Navy training ship lost power and began to drift backwards. The collision happened as sailors were hanging from the broken mast about 160 feet high. The National Transportation Safety Board is leading the investigation into the accident, with Senator Chuck Schumer speculating DOJ could be to blame.
We know that the Trump administration has been meddling in U.S. Coast Guard operations, from staffing to command and comms. And I have the general sense of a DOJ dysfunction in parts of the Coast Guard. We know that there has been meddling by the Trump administration into the Coast Guard staffing, and now we need to know how this meddling might have impacted the events of last night.
Senator Schumer also notes that there is not a commandant of the Coast Guard, and many other essential roles have been vacant since a hiring freeze was enacted at the Department of Homeland Security. Well, still ahead here at 5, you've seen the runners in costumes and the flying tortillas, but what is it to actually run in Beta Breakers? We'll show you right after the break.
See if you can pick out Andrea in this footage. Thousands of runners decked out in costumes took over the streets of San Francisco today for Beta Breakers.
And that's you right there, Brian.
Yeah.
But this is a race, and running and times do sometimes matter. Our Max Darrow takes us on his journey.
When the tortillas go flying, you know Beta Breakers is about to begin.
Nobody really knows where this tradition dates back to, but it is the ceremonial, unofficial start to Beta Breakers. Let's go.
3, 2, 1!
And with that, we were off. 25,000 officially registered people and thousands more running the 113th Beta Breakers. That first mile down Howard Street was a breeze.
First mile down, 6.45 to go.
I saw a lot of centipede runners like these folks, 13 to 15 people running together tied by a bungee cord. It's a tradition that dates back to 1978. More on that in just a moment, but first.
Mile 2, finishing our way through Civic Center and headed on in to Hayes Valley.
Hills are hard, especially daunting when you can see what's coming from a ways away. My inner monologue at this moment, uh-oh, let's skip this next part.
A little over 3 miles in, ditched the sweatshirt. That hill was killer. We're moving and grooving, baby.
We made our way past Sutro Tower and into Golden Gate Park. That's where I met some interesting people who decided to go out for a casual 12K, like Andrew in the teal jersey.
It's a perfect day. And you're dressed up as...
I'll be honest, it's a group costume and I've split with my friends. It's Flint Tropics, never seen the movie though.
It's Will Ferrell, in case you didn't know, but anyway.
And then somehow I met this guy who had quite a connection to one of the things that makes this race so unique.
You're with the original 1978 Centipede?
Yes, sir.
From UC Davis?
Yes.
What's your name?
We're the Aggies, Fred King.
Fred King.
And lucky me, because they're up ahead of me. I'm trying to catch them in the last mile here. We'll see if I can do that.
Well, it's an awesome tradition, man.
They had to wrap that interview short so he could blitz ahead.
Home stretch, mile 7.
My calves starting to tighten up, my body slowing down. It was that fresh ocean air that propelled me over the finish line.
The first time ever. Glad I did it.
Medal acquired. A great success.
Well, let's pick up this story on what thankfully was not too much of an overwhelming impact on beta breakers today. There's a lot of wind right off the coast. Come out over here right off the Golden Gate. You see the streamlines are moving over California as a whole, but they've been particularly strong in a location just off the Golden Gate. For 2 days now, we've had a fairly impressive wind out here that the National Weather Service has put storm force winds along this section of the coast today in deep purple. Where I'm standing, there have been once again 50, 55 mile an hour wind gusts out here. Now, thankfully, it has not been anywhere near that strong for us, but we still had our 25 to 30 mile an hour winds today. And as we saw a moment ago, what matters now about how the wind is behaving is the fact that it's all coming from the north. So we've got fire weather concerns. Those are northerly winds. They're coming down the valley and they're working their way out towards the bay and they're going offshore. And as they do that, they start to dry out the landscape, and that's primary concern through tomorrow. Thankfully, as far as the bay is concerned, it doesn't include the North Bay Mountains or the East Bay Hills, but it does include Solano County. And there's a lot of dry golden grass out there right now. So heads up, fire weather concerns are already starting to become part of this story. Let's take a look at the other aspect of today. Temperatures were pretty nice. Let's just pick out some of the representative spots, and then I'm going to show you what's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to warm up a little tomorrow. So if you pick out your part of the bay, mid-70s in the South Bay, made it to the low 80s for some of those warmer inland valleys. San Francisco did not make it out of the 70s today. It was kind of classic spot on average in the mid-60s. All right, let's transition. We'll say goodbye to those numbers, and let's bring on the color contours for tomorrow. Notice the deeper shades of red start showing up here. And when we get everybody's numbers on here, now you can pick out your corner of the bay. Everybody goes up tomorrow about 3 or 4 degrees. And remember, there's still just enough of a northerly breeze. There are still fire weather concerns through Solano County tomorrow and the Central Valley. Not terribly windy, though, where we all live. And the storm force wind will be allowed to expire out here off the coast. So the wind starts dying down just in time for the temperatures to start climbing on us. And while Monday is going to be noticeably warmer by about 4 or 5 degrees, temperatures from there are just going to keep going up. And as we go through the remainder of the week, they're going to peak on Wednesday. So let's take a look at that 7-day forecast for our inland microclimate first. Take a look at the numbers on here, making it up to near 90 on Wednesday. That'll be the peak, and then they'll start coming back down again. So it's not like this is going to be a heat wave. We're not breaking records at 88 degrees for this time of year, but it will be notably warmer by the time we get to Wednesday. And if we round out our forecast by taking a look at the microclimate for the bay, those numbers also get a little bit of a roller coaster, but nothing too extreme.
Well, we're going to talk about the Society of Creative Anachronism. Mm-hmm. The group is celebrating its 60th anniversary.
60th anniversary, and it all started in Berkeley, backyards sparking a worldwide movement dedicated to living history art. Itai Hod suited up to see why.
Salt to bind us together, apple sweet to the core.
In a scenic meadow just beyond Cloverdale, California, lies a kingdom you won't find on any map.
Long live the king and queen of the West!
There's a king and a queen,
Huzzah!
And thousands of subjects living like the Middle Ages never went out of style.
So you're going to go like this?
And speaking of style, the outfits are as hard to get into as they are to pull off.
Why dress up in medieval clothing and live like this? It's fun. I can't put it any other way.
Monday through Friday, Marcus Powell Ford is a 25-year-old biologist. But on weekends, he becomes Javier Miguel Castillo de Guzman, Master of Defense for the Kingdom of the West.
Ultimately, the goal is to learn a little bit more about what it would have actually been like to live in period.
Welcome to the Society for Creative Anachronism, or SCA for short, a global fellowship dedicated to reliving the Middle Ages, minus, of course, the plague and poor plumbing.
The bathrooms are not 17th century. No.
From food prepared from medieval recipes to hand-stitched embroidery, everything here predates the 1600s. Well, almost everything. Unlike a Renaissance fair, you won't find anyone selling turkey legs or trinkets here. It's more immersion than entertainment. The SEA, which started in 1966 in Berkeley, now spans more than 20 kingdoms and 50,000 participants worldwide. Each kingdom has its own customs, titles, and royalty, with new monarchs chosen at every major gathering. We met King Sigefrith moments after he was crowned, so we had to ask.
Do I have to bow to you? You do not have to bow to me, no. It's customary, though.
The main event of the weekend, a fencing tournament, medieval style. Marcus, fighting as Javier Miguel Castillo de Guzman, advances round after round. By day's end, he's crowned champion. Is it a big honor?
It is a big honor.
The title is his, at least until next year, when someone else takes a stab at it.
Do you want to be back in the 1600s for a week or two?
I'm okay. The current century's tough enough.
Be interesting. I'd like penicillin, though, to go with me. It's it at 5. We'll see you back here at 6 for an hour of news.
Local news continues streaming on CBS News Bay Area.